I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for Shafter City Council Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. Record shows for roll call. We have Mayor Pro Tem Givens absent with an excused absence, as well as our Councilmember Lopez. For the Pledge of Allegiance and Invocation, I'm going to call upon our Councilmember Alvarado to lead us in the pledge first.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow our heads, continue standing, please. Lord, we just come before you. We just thank you for all that you have done for us, Lord. We thank you for your blessings upon the city and also upon the country. We also pray for the other countries, Lord, that are being challenged and being tested, Lord. We ask that you be over them and protecting them as well, Lord. And we just thank for everything in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Approval of agenda. We don't have any changes, do we? No changes on the agenda. Okay, we need a motion.
I'll make that motion to accept the agenda as read.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Alvarado, seconded by Councilmember Espinoza to approve the agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Public comment time. Anyone in the audience care to address the council may come forward at this time. Nothing? Very good. We'll move on. Move on to council announcements and reports. Gilbert, you have something?
You know, I don't have anything that I went to.
It's been a lot quieter.
Yeah.
No.
So, but I just want to say, it's March and it's a beautiful day.
Mhm.
Yes, on the 22nd of February, I was here for the oath of office to welcome Sean Cadillo to the Shafter Police Department. So Chief, congratulations. He's a good looking officer and I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's homegrown too, right?
Mhm.
Yes, he came back home. So we're looking forward to that. And then on February 25th, I noticed the softball lights on at the high school. And there was a softball tournament going on, and Shafter and BHS drillers were in the last game to see who was going to win the tournament. And it was right up to the very end, and Shafter just fell a little short, but I'm pretty sure BHS didn't want any more of them because they were right there. So I just like to say congratulations to the softball team. And that's all I have.
And that was the girls or the boys?
The girls.
Yeah.
Girls softball team, yes.
I heard they were up on the final part. Yeah.
Yes.
That's good. Okay, I have a couple items. I did listen in on the Zoom meeting for the Chamber of Commerce and their reorganization for their new board and their new setup. And they have their new officer, and it's Gabby. Yasmina, help me out. Her last name is, she represents CRC. Yeah, I should have looked it up. I know.
Gonzalez.
Is it Gonzalez? Who answered that? Was that Rachel? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I thought it was too, but I didn't
Oh,
want
God.
to.
Hello?
All right,
Sorry.
that's pretty new, ladies. We don't have this kind of ghost in the area, but, oh, you're good, Rachel. Okay, that's Gabby is their president, and we have a vice president who is Angie Nelson, and the treasurer is going to be Pam Wells. The other director is Morgan Clayton, but they are still short too. They're short a new secretary, and then they're short some directors. So they're still organizing, but they are planning for the annual awards and their dinner, and it's scheduled for March the 24th. And then we also have the State of the City, which will be my honor to present. And then I also attended KernCog meeting, and at the KernCog meeting, we have a couple projects that are in line, aren't they? The shoulder project.
Santa Fe Shoulder Project and the roundabout
Yes.
has CMAQ funding as well.
That's right.
But in the queue, we've got Circle Road Reconstruction, I believe, that's coming up as early as this summer.
Yeah, that was good. That's to finish up the part that we didn't get to before.
There's more than both. There's multiple parts, but that's
Yeah.
another phase.
Right. Right. Okay, but then also I was elected to serve on the executive committee. And I joined Bob Smith, who represents Bakersfield, and he's the chair of the board. And then also Zach Scrivener, who is represents county. Also, it was my pleasure to come to the oath of office for Sean Cadale, who is, yeah, he's mature and grown, and he's served in a couple other departments. And so we're really happy to have him over here, and I think he'll do well for us. So he joins a good force over there. So Chief, good moves, huh? Yeah. Okay, that's all I had for the past 2 weeks. Okay, we'll move on to consent calendar. Give me a chance to kind of update. We have 8 items on the consent calendar. Checks are routine, as well as payroll in the minutes for February the 15th. Number 4 item is a special event permit for Kiwanis Club of Shafter for the Easter sunrise service to be held at Mantle Park on April 17th. Then number 2 item is to declare 2 of the guard towers currently assembled at the former modified community corrections facility, or we call it the MCCF, as surplus property, and the donation of the guard towers will go to Minterfield Airport District. Number 6 item is to approve a proposal submitted by Advanced Training Systems totaling $10,945 for the city pistol range. Number 7, we will authorize our Public Works Director to award the purchase of piping materials from Core and Main in the amount of $17,299.19. And that will be for the installation of well number 9 irrigations project. And number 8 is to approve a grant of parcel described in a grant deed that will help at 4,000 Fanuki Way property. And that goes for the easement to the city of Shafter for the street and the public utilities. So if there are no questions, we can entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the consent calendar as read.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Councilmember Alvarado, seconded by Councilmember Espinoza.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, public hearings. We have 3 items on tonight. The first one is unmet transit needs for fiscal year 2023.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this presentation will be made by Administrative Services Director Roger Sanchez.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor's council members. So before you, I'll be presenting on the transit information. It's almost ready. So this is regarding the public hearing for unmet transit needs for the fiscal year 22-23. Oops. Go back. Sorry about that. So we have the Transportation Development Act from 1970.
Couldn't. I think I fixed it.
And this helps us to for funding for the dial-up ride operations and for public buses as well. So we get part of the funding is for the local transportation fund and the state transit assistance. The TDA funding can be used for local streets and roads as well. So public transit and local streets. But before we can spend the money on local streets and roads, we have to conduct a public hearing for any potential unmet needs related to public transit. So the public can speak if they have any items to communicate or request a special request. We advertise this on the local newspaper as well as significant on social media as well, on this public hearing so that the public may have an opportunity to present any concerns or requests. I also wanted to give you some context as far as the revenue, as to how things are going with the transit. That way you have a perspective. So here's the historical fare box revenue from 1917 and then from 1819 fiscal year. And then as you can see, the 1920 year, there was a decrease and even more decrease on the 2021 fiscal year. So as you can remember, the fiscal year starts on July 1st, and that's why the biggest decrease is on 2021.
That had to do with COVID too, didn't it?
That is absolutely
Sure.
everything with COVID, those decreases. So you can see here the labor cost, historical perspective on the transit operations. And then the other operating cost. And the red line represents the percentage of fare box revenues, the slides that I previously showed, as a percentage of operating expenses. So there's less revenue collected, and yet we have the same operating expenses. So as you can see, it doesn't cover 100% of the operations. So we get the grants to cover, including the 5311 program and things like that, to cover the rest of the public transit. So this gives you a historical perspective on rides count by category. So the first category is regular riders. The second is the seniors. And you can see from the calendar year 2019 to 2020, there's a significant decrease on ridership. And then we have the disabilities, the youth, child riders, and anything outside the city that is close to the city. And then the total. So you can see the count total, and it's a very drastic decrease during the pandemic. The rides by category, this gives you a trend. The first is the regular riderships, seniors, and this is monthly ridership from 2018 all the way until the end of, all the way until January 2022. And then youth and others. So this is a comparison of the average monthly rides of pre-pandemic and after the pandemic. So as you can see, the regular, on a monthly basis, on average, there used to be 1,300 rides per month on average. And then, you know, during the pandemic, it's very different. Seniors, disabilities, youth, children, and county, not a whole lot of change in the county, but overall, there's a decrease on average monthly rides of 64% decrease. So the recommendation is to conduct a public hearing, and if there's any comments or requests, and approve and adopt resolution 2851. So that's concludes my presentation.
Any questions from council?
How long have we been doing Saturdays?
Ooh,
Is it a couple of years?
Saturdays,
yeah,
you know,
we
it's just-
started
Yeah. I know there was a
before.
need at one time to explore Saturdays because a lot of folks were still needing rides. But I was just wondering.
It was before COVID.
It was, and
Mhm.
I didn't know, there was a chart there you had shown the numbers were pretty high, but I wasn't sure if it was because of Saturday was added or not, so, but. Just,
you know,
okay.
you know what I can do is I can email you the breakdown by weekdays. We have that information, and we can see if there's any significant activities on Saturdays.
Because it was supposed to be a trial run to see if
Mhm.
Saturdays were gonna work or not, but there was a lot of requests
Yes,
for
sir.
Saturdays, but I was just wondering if that was actually, you know, something good that we did or, you know, or not, so.
Yeah,
We
you know,
still offer it on Saturday?
I believe so. I need
We
to
have
double
that
check
here?
that, but I can send you an email and give you an update as to whether we provide those rights and also what is the breakdown per weekday.
Good.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you.
Any questions, Pete?
So even when we had a high participation in this, we were still under the cost of operating, correct?
Well, the public transit doesn't make any money where it has to be subsidized. So federal monies and state monies, local funding from CRNCOG. Well, the state gives money to CRNCOG. We make up the difference. So the fees from rides, it used to be close to 18–19%, but not anymore. But all that 80%, over 80%, it needs to be subsidized and it's through grants.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. If anyone cares to address the council for or against or any other suggestions that you might have, come forward.
Hi, good evening, council members. I actually think Dial-A-Ride is a great asset to the community. I work at Grow Academy Chapter, so I have quite a bit of students and parents who use this on a regular basis. They have, I mean, there's some concerns that we do have because I know there's limited staffing for it. Because at times when we have students that need to leave like at noon for whatever reason, I'll get a call back, say, call back in 30 minutes and find out if the bus is gonna show up. And then when I finally reach somebody, it's an hour later. Or actually a couple days ago, we called and they said, we only have one driver today, so they're trying to get to everybody as much as they can. So there's definitely a need for it. So if there's any plans on how to like help that need, because as you know, there's houses being constructed as well behind our campus as well. So it's gonna get busier and busier, but I don't know how the structure is whenever we call, because I always get like different answers, like, you know, wait a half hour, they're on their lunch break. I totally understand, but there is definitely a need, especially with our community. So I just want to bring that up and kind of put that in your ear that it's definitely needed, it's appreciated. And I mean, the cost is great for the community. So that's just my observation.
We need to get your name and
Yeah, oh, Irene Montoya, and then address is 266 East Ash.
I just a question, Irene, just because you brought it up. When you say you have students, you're talking about like 100 students, you're talking about 20
numbers.
students, you're talking about where the school might need a bus now, or?
It's not a lot. It's just typically when parents are like, hey, I'm running late, I'm sending Dial-A-Ride to go pick up my kids. So they'll pull up to the office and pick them up.
So you're talking about onesie, twosies? Or you're
Yeah,
talking about 100?
Wednesdays
20?
typically is because they're short day. So typically are that, or it just varies really. We have one student that he would get picked up because mom was either at work or a doctor's appointments and couldn't get there. So certain stances like that. We haven't dealt with a lot of Dial-A-Ride until probably the last 2 years maybe, but that's where we're noticing like things like that. So I just thought I'd bring it up.
I would, if we could just do us a favor, just keep a track monthly,
Okay.
a track
Mhm.
of how many of your students from Girl Elementary
Mhm.
is using it and what time.
Mhm.
Then we could determine like, wow, maybe at some point, maybe if it's over 100, maybe the school needs to buy a bus. You know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just helps us to have a gauge.
It's not a lot. Honestly, I know from the top of my head, it's probably like 6 kids.
Okay.
Really, the most of them, I mean, because we're so close to the community and everybody just kind of works it out,
Mhm.
they either walk home or they get picked up. But
Mhm.
instances like that, that's where it's,
and it's mostly during the daytime that you need it because it's
It's
not
during the
like the
daytime.
morning or the
no,
after school.
no, not at all.
Yeah, see, it's later on.
Mhm. And it's typically like around lunchtime.
Oh, midday.
Mhm.
But just if you could, just
Yeah,
try to keep
absolutely.
a record, maybe for a month, and then we'll, give it to the city clerk, and then we'll get that information.
Okay, sounds good. I can do that.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Anyone
you.
else have any input at this time? Okay. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, and our process at this time is to approve what we have going forward. and adopt resolution number 2851.
Make the motion to adopt resolution 2851.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Alvarado, seconded by Councilmember Espinoza to adopt resolution number 2851.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the second item is the tentative track 7388.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shaft City Council, public hearing items number 2 and 3 will be presented by Planning Director Steve Esselman.
Honorable Commission or Honorable Council, sorry, Planning Commission mode. Tonight, I'm presenting to you tentative track 7388, which is actually the last tract going for the Gossamer Grove specific plan area. That is, of course, if the high-speed rail doesn't come through, they may have something to the north. But for now, this is the last tract that is going to be coming to your council for approval regarding the Gossamer Grove specific plan area. So as I said, it's the Gossamer Grove specific plan area. This tentative tract is 95 gross acres. Within that 95 gross acres, they're subdividing 345 single family residential lots, as well as the associated streets, easements, etc. The lots range in size between 4,000 and 18,613 feet. And there are also 2 drill islands as part of this project. That is the site of the final tentative tract for the Gossamer Grove specific plan area. If you'll notice to the south, that's actually a commercial area that's currently vacant. This is generally what the tentative tract looks like. There are other diagrams in the larger staff report, but this just gives you a sense of what the final tract will look like upon build out. Staff found that the tentative tract 7388 is consistent with the general plan, or more specifically, the specific plan and the general plan, and it substantially conforms to the Subdivision Map Act and Municipal Code Title 16, which is our subdivision ordinance. Uses and design are compatible with adjacent projects, particularly since it is just an extension of the Gossamer Grove specific plan area. Complies with general plan and specific plan policies. There are conditions of approval for safety and welfare, as well as surface access to mineral rights, which is why there are 2 drill islands placed in the final tentative tract. And we have found that the project, this approval is CEQA exempt. So staff's recommendation is conduct hearing and then adopt resolution 22391 approving tentative tract 7388 with findings and conditions of approval. And that ends staff's report. Thank you.
Council, have any questions of staff before I open the hearing? Okay, we'd like to open the hearing for any comments for or against tentative tract number 7388. May come forward, state your name and address. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, what's the pleasure?
Yes, make a motion to accept tentative tract 7388.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Alvarado, seconded by Councilmember Espinoza to adopt resolution number 2849.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, very good. Okay, the next item is agriculture preserve procedure number 22-31.
And you're right about that, Mayor. And unfortunately, you could tell that I used the same template for the 2 things because it's actually incorrect and it's saying it's ag preserve procedure 7388, which was tentative track 7388. So I apologize for that mistake. In fact, this is actually agricultural preserve procedure 2231, which, to give you a little background, in January of 2020, the city purchased 34.5 acres of land in the North Shafter area. The acreage is currently under Ag Preserve number 8, and all of the acreage is also currently under Williamson Act contract. This gives you a sense of the site. Please note the line in the middle, because I'm going to be referring to a western and eastern portion of the site for the rest of my presentation. For the eastern portion of the site, the city is planning a future public water well, basin, and 5-acre park. Because of these public uses, the Williamson Act contract is considered null and void by Government Code Section 51295, essentially because it was acquired by a public agency for public use. Just last week, we actually filed a deferred notice to the Department of Conservation of our intent to take this acreage out of Ag Preserve number 8. And also to have the Williamson Act contract null and voided on the eastern portion of the site. Now, on the western portion of the site is currently zoned and designated residential. The city intends to keep that residential land use designation for future use. Because it is not for public use, the Williamson Act contract is not null and void on the western portion of the site. The whole site can be diminished from the Ag Preserve, but the eastern portion can be considered null and void, but the western cannot. Therefore, the city has to go through a non-renewal process. Currently on March 8th, the Planning Commission is going to consider a non-renewal of the western portion of the site and make a recommendation to the council. If the PC recommends approval, this item will be taken forward, the non-renewal will be taken forward to the council for your consideration at a future date. If the non-renewal is enacted, in 9 years, the Williamson Act contract will have expired on the land. It takes 9 years for the tax increment to slowly grade down, or grade up until finally it's essentially at the same tax it was prior to being placed under a Williamson Act contract. And that's just the way non-renewals go. It's over a 10-year process. Oops, sorry. Got a little ahead of myself. That was the western portion. So the recommendation here is to conduct the hearing and then to adopt resolution 2850 approving Ag Preserve Procedure 2231, which diminishes 34.5 acres from Ag Preserve number 8 per Government Code Section 51230 at sequence. And that ends my report. Thank you.
When they take those out there for 10-year and then you renew it after 10 years?
It automatically renews
Yeah,
every year.
but-
Every year, so it just
Whatever.
keeps going until you non-renew, and then it takes 10 years for that non-renewal to take
True.
place.
Okay.
But so at a certain point in time, if you haven't asked for a non-renewal, it automatically renews. So it just keeps adding that 1 year on to, so it stays at 10 years.
Okay, because the owner had that for many years.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So Steve, I got a question. On the west side, the
Yes.
residential area, at some point in time, can the city sell that to a developer?
Sure. Yes,
Okay.
the city could sell it to a developer.
Right.
We could also develop maybe from a planning director's point of view, maybe some low-income housing that is necessary to meet our low-income housing goals in the future related to our arena numbers, our housing element numbers, and there's a certain amount of homes at different price points that we have to have in our plans so that we are compliant with state law. That's an option, but yeah, we could certainly sell it.
It's kind of like what we did over on Rodeo
Rodeo
Drive. too.
yeah.
Right, right.
And we had that for a while.
But we may also want to consider at some point, some public facility, residential facility.
But there's no waiting period for the west side.
East side.
For the east side, it's null and void, but that is going to
Yeah,
be
but
used
the
for
west
public
side
use.
is the residential area, which there's no waiting period if we want to have that sold. in that.
No, we would have to wait 10 years for
Oh,
the
10 years
non-renewal.
still.
Yeah, the non-renewal means you keep it in ag production for 10 more years. Once
Okay.
the 10 years is done, It's unencumbered by a Williamson Act contract, and therefore you can develop it as you would based on the zone and designation.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for anyone to come forward, care for or against, or any comments. Very good. Well, we'll close that public hearing. I don't believe I had any other questions. I mean, we've already been working out there and we're hoping to construct a nice 5-acre park, isn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, it looks like it's just kind of taking its course as we go along. Yeah, it's a Fresno and CVH in case some of you didn't catch on to where we are, so. And then also a water well as well as a retention basin. So it could be a good project out there. Very good. Okay, what's your pleasure, guys?
Make the motion to approve resolution 2850.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Alvarado, seconded by Councilmember Espinoza to approve resolution number 2850.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Moving on to management reports, the number 1 is to approve a contract change order and a budget amendment for the seventh standard widening phase 2 project.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shaft City Council. In mid-2020, the council awarded a professional services contract to NCM Engineering Corporation to lead the preliminary engineering phase of a project that would hopefully ultimately widen 7th Standard Road between Santa Fe Way and Highway 43. The project, the widening would add 3 lanes in each direction. It would add 2 lanes for a total of 3 lanes in each direction. So the preliminary engineering work in this case consists of identifying the right-of-way needs for such a project and completing the environmental work required. And we're referring to this as phase 2 because phase 1 occurred between basically Highway 99 and Santa Fe Way. And incidentally, the city had been the lead agency on that project on phase 1, just like we are on phase 2. So for phase 2, the chapter was initially awarded $400,000 in federal transportation improvement program funding. But the NCM's contract was valued at approximately $880,000. So we were fully funding their contract required $480,000 in local transportation funding. Fortunately, an additional $350,000 approximately in federal funding was infused into the project to reduce the local match to $130,000. But unfortunately, as we've evolved, this project has evolved, the NCM's scope of work needs to increase. One of the reasons is because in this case, we're going to have to do a state and a federal environmental certification process. And there's additional staff time on NCM's part to fulfill the project objectives now. And so these additional staff and resources are now valued at approximately $133,000 that we need, $103,000 that we need to add to the project, which is detailed in the draft change order included with your staff report. So staff have reviewed NCM's proposed cost increase and feel that it's fair and complete. So we just need to make sure that the project budget is prepared to cover the additional project costs. In addition to NCM's increased scope of work, the project budget also needs to cover the acquisition of preliminary title reports that were pulled for all of the parcels that might be impacted by this project to assist with the right-of-way acquisition planning. The purchase of those title reports was initially approved by the council a few months ago, but the budget action was not taken at that time to cover that cost. So we're here tonight to request a budget amendment to cover both the past approval of the title report acquisition as well as the increased scope of work for NCM's contract. So we now need to increase the local match. The local match will now need to increase to $264,181, which is an increase of approximately $130,000. But it's worth noting that this is still more than $200,000 less than we were initially planning on for a local match. when the project was awarded. So the source of the local match has been and should continue to be traffic impact fee revenues. And right now we have a balance of approximately 9.5 million in traffic impact fee revenue to apply towards this project. So tonight we're requesting approval for the change order to NCM's contract, as well as the budget action that would enable us to increase our local match by approximately 130,000. And that concludes the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is it correct, if I understand it right, then that 264,000 includes that 133?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Any other questions? It's a good project. We just need to get it done, huh?
It'll take some time, but it'll be worth it.
Okay. Any other questions? What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we pass it as read.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Espinoza, seconded by Councilmember Alvarado to let's see, to approve this $133,762.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, number 2 item is the Stringham Park Bus Stop Project for formal bidding.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council, believe staff has briefed the council in the past on our plans to relocate the county regional transit bus stop from the City Hall parking lot behind me to Stringham Park. The Stringham Park alternative offers more space for buses and bus passengers, and it frees up some space in the City Hall parking lot. And it's important to point out it has been vetted and approved by the county. Now, the master plan, the current master plan for Stringham Park includes adding a parking lot at the south end for transit and park use. But the county actually prefers to park the buses for pickups and drop-offs right off of James Street. They feel like pulling into the parking lot, a new parking lot would, slow them down. It wouldn't necessarily provide any advantages to their drivers. So we actually designed a project to provide a bus bay turnout off of James Street right in front of Stringham Park. And the plans for that project have been provided with your staff report. The value of this project is approximately $72,000. That amount requires that the city follow formal bid procedures, which basically means in this case is that we have to approve the project before it goes out to bid. It's also worth noting that approximately 190,000 in transit funding has been programmed for this project through the State of Good Repair program, which is overseen and managed by KernCog. So provided there is a fund balance after the city awards a successful bid and completes that the bus bay portion of this project, we're anticipating that surplus funding would be used to purchase a bus shelter and install a bus shelter similar to what's at the current bus stop. So I wanted to point out that the parking lot that I mentioned, that's another phase of the project that we actually pitched for state grant funding, the Clean California program. And while I'm on that topic, I'm really pleased to announce that the city was successful in being allocated ultimately $4.6 million to use for the Stringham project, the upgrades to the skate park, Veterans Park, lighting, Mantle Park lighting, and then street lighting along James Street. And then the bulk of the funding was earmarked for the aquatic center to restore the aquatic center for use, to bring it back to use. So we just got word of that literally before the meeting. So I didn't have a presentation to break everything down, but I just wanted to point out while Planning Director Esselman is present that he and I and engineering staff and administrative staff all played a really big part in making that application happen. And we're really excited to see some benefits to that as early as probably next year. It's going to take some time to work through the grant award process, but We'll have more details for you at future meetings, but we just literally found out about that before the meeting. So am I forgetting a project, Steve?
No, that sounds right.
Okay. Yeah, but back to the topic I was starting on. That concludes the presentation. That we're here to request authorization to pursue formal bidding for this project. And at the conclusion of the bidding, we'll come back to you for with the bid results and hopefully an award recommendation.
Well, thank you and the staff for all your hard work. And I make a motion that we approve the Stringham's Park Bus Stop project and open it for formal bidding.
Yeah, before I make the second, I just want to say about the Stringham bus stop or the James Street bus stop. I think it's going to be a big plus just for the fact that those that are waiting for the bus could actually run to the coffee shop, which is just across the street, and get some, or actually be there early, have some coffee and some donuts, and then run to the bus stop. Or even those during the midday, you know, they could be at Tony's Pizzas or Don Perico having lunch, and then they go out there and get on the bus. So I think the location it's a prime location for something like this, where you had it here, there's nothing here to, you know, for them to do, you know, and just sometimes you got some folks that are going to college and uses that, you know, that transit opportunity to get to college and from different places, where now being where it's at now in Stringham, they could, like I said, you know, grab something to eat and wait if it's raining or something like that. And I know
We haven't really covered the safety side of this too. I know that bus shelter has been hit at least a couple of times by by an oncoming car. And so there's a safety side of this, and going back to the Clean California Grant project, which I believe has shade structure, a recreational component as well. And then by constructing the parking lot, it's our hope that we can also facilitate the installation of electric vehicle charging stations to give people another option for transit.
Because I even across the street from for that new bus stop that we're talking about, there's a driving school right next to Miguel Montoya, where a lot of those folks come from Bakersfield. I see their parents dropping them off, and that's where they, you know, and who knows, they can even use the transit bus to get back and forth if they have to during the time. So that is a very good project, good thought out place to put that bus stop. And I just want to say thank you. And then also back to this grant that you just found out here just right before our meeting, Steve and Mike and your staff for all your hard work. And I know, you know, it takes a lot of, it's, you know, it's I said just takes a lot of time, you know, and you know, if you didn't take the extra time and didn't put the extra effort in it, perhaps you wouldn't have done it. But I just want to say thank you for all your hard work, Steve and Mike and all the staff and everyone else that was involved in it.
We'll be sure to let them know. Thank you.
Yes, and I'll make a second on the Stringham Park bus stop project for former bidding.
Okay. Ready for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You know, just to finalize on it, I think it's important that the audience even, or the community understands the change in the traffic for CVH is tremendously more so, as well as the speed. And I know oftentimes when you come up and down here, you see people running across the street. So the safety issue is really important to get it moved. Yeah, and the buses know that too, and the passengers have to know it. It's really time to get it moved. Yeah. And it does still leave some park area, right?
Correct.
I mean, it's not a whole lot, but it will have some park so that they still have a place to sit out there.
Correct. The north half of the park will be dedicated for recreation, and they'll have a shade structure there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're all excited about the project, as you know, and the grant. I mean, that's something, and they did it in such a short time. I mean, that was the other fun thing, so. Okay, we're moving on to city manager comments and reports.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Sheriff City Council, just a couple of reminders. Learning Center expansion ribbon cutting scheduled for Wednesday, March 16th at 4:30 p.m. The San Joaquin Valley Policy Conference, which is an in-person conference, is scheduled to take place May 11th through the 13th at Clovis Veterans Memorial District, and you're asked to contact the city clerk if you're interested in attending that. event. Of course, we've covered Form 700s. You officially have a month left to to get that prepared. And then you can see the city clerk if you have any questions or if you need assistance. And then finally, we were made aware that the dog park dedication that had to be postponed is now officially rescheduled for March 26th. And I believe the ceremonies are intended to start at 11 a.m. And that will be at Farm Park, I believe. The dog park component will be at Farm Park, but we'll provide details about that event through the city clerk and also through social media, so the public can have an opportunity to participate with that. That we just made aware of that rescheduling this week.
And it does mean Kern County's first dog park like this, right?
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
That with
good.
the at least with the dedication of a statue like that.
You're right. So it should be fun. It should be interesting.
So for my clarification, when you say dog park, is it for dogs or is it gonna be, or is it?
Yes.
There's a dog park and it's going to have the element of a dedication of a statue to commemorate dogs that have served in the
Service.
military.
Oh, okay.
Remember we had the lady come here from Los
Yeah,
Monroe
yeah.
that made the
It's been a
presentation.
while. Okay.
It's really pretty unique. It's going to be nice. And the statue of it is really quite nice.
Mm.
Yeah. So that was March the 26th.
Correct.
Okay, we'll get more information on it.
That's right.
Okay, that
And
concludes the city manager report.
That
and-
concludes, and nothing on the public works side. And I don't believe any directors have requested to share any comments at this time.
Okay, well, then we can have a motion to recess, to discuss. Let me get this read. Conference with real property negotiations, rail industrial parcels between Burbank Avenue and 7 Standard Road. So motion, please.
I'll make the motion to go into recess for closed session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and it's 6:47. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I oppose, no. I don't have to watch this go away. Okay. Okay. All right, we are back in session, 7:28, and call upon our attorney, Marcos Martinez, to give us a report.
Thank you, Mayor. As you mentioned earlier tonight, City Council recessed into closed session. Item is listed on the regular meeting agenda. There was one item tonight. All members were present except for council members Lopez and Gibbons, who have excused absences tonight. The item was a conference with real property negotiators concerning rail and industrial parcels between Burbank Avenue and 7 Standard Road. City Council provided direction to its agency negotiators, and there is no further reportable action.
Okay, there are no more comments. We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone have a good night.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.